All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the 2A Live podcast. We are back with a new guest today. It's my good friend Leo. Leo, how you doing today, man?
Dude, I'm feeling wonderful. Sipping on this chamomile tea. Stoked to be here with you.
Let's
Long time
go.
coming.
Long time coming, seriously. I wanted to start today's kind of conversation reflecting on, still to this day, the event that you threw that has stuck with me for it's been like 7 months, 6 or 7 months now, which was your event Resonance that you threw here in Austin. And I just, like, I've told you this in person, obviously, but there was something about the way you do that just really, I felt the care and the love and the attention to detail. It was like, actually, why don't you describe it for the audience? Like, what was that event? And then I'll share kind of what really resonated with me.
Yeah. So I feel like what makes that event special amongst all the other things that I've hosted is the genesis came from just like waking up with an inspiration, like waking up with like a vision for something. Just like I don't know. I don't know if you follow Wayne Dyer, if you've read any of his stuff, but there's a section of his autobiography where he talks about God waking him up at like 4 a.m. with like a very clear idea. And I had just read the book, so I woke up with this like image in my mind of an event, and I was like, I got to bring this to fruition. I was just so excited about it. But it started out just being I'm so like passionate about music and how it affects me and my mood. And I just actually learned more about this today, how it's like it just goes so much deeper than anyone is like consciously aware, how music just affects our energy and our system. And I've known for a while that I wanted to host something kind of surrounding music, and then the vision came to me. Um, and over the course of sitting with it and then partnering up with Alba, it kind of turned into something a little bit different than the original vision that I had. But the whole idea was built around music and frequency. And I'm like no stranger to bringing people into a space to like connect and like do like self-discovery and stuff like that. But the music thing was totally new to me. So it was just like a new exciting edge. And then I got connected with Alba, who's of course like incredible. So she was like she was my like artist, like my gateway into how are we going to create the musical side of things. And then it shifted into like the breath work and all that stuff. So that's kind of how it started. But yeah, originally it was just a vision to have a really just beautiful, generative, like almost party, but where people were going to leave just feeling really rejuvenated. And then from there, it was like, can we have them leave feeling more connected to their self as well, or to their partner if they bring a partner along? Can we leave with them feeling like, just like, how do we create like that effect of catharsis and like release, or like a deepening of connection to themselves? And from there, it's just like, all right, like, what is it going to take to do that? What type of tools and modalities are we kind of aware of at this point? Me and Alba, I mean, to like deploy or whatever, sort of engineer into the experience. And that's like the really fun part for me. I love just taking these like components that everyone likes. Like, yeah, I love music. Yes, I love food. Yeah, I like breath work, or I love dance. And it's like, okay, how do you like really consciously engineer like 3 hours of time so we just get the most out of it and have it flow very effortlessly, where people kind of feel like, man, there's so much intentionality, but it doesn't feel like this awkward, like, all right, like now we're moving on to segment 4, like, on the minute. So there's kind of an art form to it, but something about that just like really, it lights me up. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I've always noticed about you. Like, I haven't been to the other events that you've hosted. You mentioned, what was it called? The dinners you did. What was the name of that?
Reveal was the brand and the company. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We did like 60 dinner parties or something over the course of like a year and a half.
Yeah. What are you paying attention to when you put these events together? Like, what is it? I know you kind of touched it, but I'm curious if you can dive into it a little deeper. What are you feeling into?
I, well, I think this is like a really hard question to answer because it's almost like trying to deconstruct like your natural thing. Like I always like get kind of like weirded out by like saying like, oh, you have like a gift. Like it's easy to say when someone else has it because you can so clearly see like this person has a way with words, or this person's very physically gifted. And for me, I think there's just something to do with like social energetics that like I'm just really kind of like turned on to, like a nature and nurture kind of situation. I grew up in a big family. I went to a bunch of different schools, and I was just always the kid that could like mesh with any group of people. Um, And I think that developed me into being someone who's like very good at observing someone's vibe, where they're at emotionally. And I don't know what plays into that, to be honest. Like if I'm looking at a group of people, I'm definitely scanning for, do people look engaged? Do they look happy? Do they look relaxed? But also like, are people, yeah, I don't know, people, are people just wearing smiles and laughing and looking like, they're enjoying themselves? And there's sort of just like a weird like diffuse awareness that happens. I think we've talked about this too. Like I know that you have just such a gift for like one-on-one conversation. I've noticed that with you as well. Like you're really engaging one-on-one, and I think I kind of am, but I'm a little bit more like ADHD. Like I almost like when there's a lot going on around me. It feels like my natural environment, and so I've just always gravitated towards shepherding and sort of like directing groups of people. It's just been fun. Like when I was much younger, I worked in nightlife even, and that was like
Mhm.
literally like managing groups of like up to like 200 people. And something about it was just very fun to me. Um,
Yeah.
it's like a video game or something, like one of those games where there's like, you have like a bunch of different forts that are all going, I don't know, I don't know what reference to make, but like there's a lot going on and you just kind of like set things and watch them play out naturally. I've always enjoyed that sensation or that experience. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that just plays out socially with events where I'm bringing people into a space. I'm making them a promise. Hey, I think that you're going to have a great time here. And I'm also promising you like a level of safety and a level of like just like enjoyment. Like I think you're gonna really enjoy this experience. And then while I'm there, I'm following through on that promise by just paying attention to energy and vibe and whether people are connecting with the intention or whatever the design of the event. And sometimes you just have to pivot super hard and be like, well, this came out like way more boring or way more dense than I wanted it to. We need to add some like excitement or we need to add some like levity here and there. So yeah, something about it's fun. It's like orchestrating, I think, too.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been to so many events. Austin has no shortage of events and community and whatnot. And even prior to here, I've experienced my fair share of events, and there was just something about, there was like an aliveness to residents in particular, and I'm sure the other events that you put together as well. That I don't, maybe because you're so in it and it's so natural to you. I don't, maybe you've sensed this in other people's events, but like I just feel this is something that we don't talk about. Like no one really curates or builds this type of experience into their events, where it's not just like you said, like we're going through the agenda. All right, guys, next up on the list of things we're gonna do today is whatever. Which it just to me feels like it's time pass. Like it's an excuse to pass time together, which can sometimes have connective elements, but generally it's kind of just blah. And I've just never,
It's a weird thing. I agree with you. I've
yeah.
definitely experienced that a lot myself.
Yeah. And I think there's just love and attunement that you have that people feel. And honestly, like I see it as your gift. And I know you don't like using that phrase, but I see it as your gift. And I'm
No,
so
it just feels
curious.
like a lot to like to like take on and be like, it's hard to like give yourself a compliment or recognize whatever like greatness or like skill that you have or genius that you have. Especially if it comes very naturally. You're like, I don't really feel like
Right.
I earned this that much, so it's hard to like harder to take credit sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
I
it's
appreciate
yours.
that though. I receive it. Yeah, and I've
Yeah.
heard it from a lot of people that matter a lot to me. So at a certain point, you're just like, okay, fine. If other people are seeing this, like, yeah. But yeah, also, I've just been getting so into the concept of Dharma the past like 2 or 3 days. I love, obviously, I love like Eastern philosophy and yogic philosophy, and I've just been rereading certain things that had an impact on me in the past. And I'm like a good probably 75% through the Bhagavad Gita right now. It's my first read through, and it's this translation that's like a really good, just like fantastically easy to understand translation. Can't remember the guy's name, like Eknath, I think is his last name. He's like a really famous writer on the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita. But the part that like just shines so brightly to me is like hearing again about Dharma and karma and this concept that like it clicked so well for me. And maybe this is like also my own interpretation of the term, but like Dharma almost being like just your place. Like if there's like an ecosystem, like a garden where there's like flowers, there's soil, there's like some snails, there's a hummingbird, there's bees. Each of these creatures and manifestations of like life have their own role and job and place. And when you look at it from the outside, you're like, oh, this is just such a beautiful thing that flows well together. But if you isolate and you were like to ask to be like I don't know, do you feel like you're making a huge difference? And it might be kind of myopically focused on its task and not really know the value that it contributes. I would imagine these creatures probably, I don't know, there probably is this deep felt like life force energy between all the things, because a lot of nature just doesn't like wreak havoc like we do and just randomly destroy ecosystems and stuff. But that's a very like comforting and grounding concept to me, to think you just have a place like beyond like making money, receiving obvious recognition, any sort of really like external validation, beyond this sensation of just like joy and flow and like capability, which is what I find with social stuff. Like I get joy from it, I find flow, and I feel capable enough, and then I have the bonus of other people telling me like this is really nice and useful, which might be the feedback that human beings need, because we're not as like just in the flow as like a bee or a hummingbird. But yeah, a little bit of a tangent, but that concept has made me feel really good the past few days, just pondering on the idea.
Yeah, I love it. You know, something I've been really kind of noodling on, I guess, over the last several months has been this idea of permission, of like, in whatever way, like reality giving us permission to be who we are, you know, and trust the things about us that, you know, that bring us joy, for example. Obviously the Dharma is a very like established kind of way to think about it, but it's what, in whatever form it makes sense for anyone. It's like, how can you give yourself permission to be who you are? And how can you give yourself permission to explore the edges of who you are? Because, you know, you don't ever truly form a full picture, you know, of who you are. So I feel like that ties in with kind of this tangent we're on about Dharma anyway. It's cool.
That seems like the modern day challenge, like genuinely. Like
Yeah.
if there was, maybe this is just my version of the challenge because I've overcome a bunch of stuff already, and now I'm in this state where I'm just like, okay, like I'm at baseline or slightly above, but I want to just like shoot for the stars and just have like maximum fulfillment, maximum sense of well-being, maximum like connectedness to myself and to my community around me. What's next is to figure out like what's unique about me. Like again, like the whole idea is it's better to die just trying at your swadharma or whatever than it is to be living in someone else's dharma, even if you're successful doing it. You just won't get the juice that you're expecting. Like the
Yeah.
fruit isn't going to be there for you, which maybe to some people sounds anxiety provoking, but to me it sounds really exciting, because it's just
Kind of
this
freeing.
promise of like, yeah, I don't know. I enjoy a bit of constraint in a way, honestly, when thinking about concepts that are as big as like life's purpose. If it's too out there amorphous, complete free will, do whatever you want. Like no matter what your disposition is, you should just go do whatever you want. That's kind of a nice thing to say, but I get more comfort from being told there's actually a beautiful place for you in the ecosystem. Like you're gonna be a hummingbird or a bee or a flower. A flower doesn't want to be the soil or to be like a snail. Like it would feel just weird. Even if it tried to, it wouldn't work, you know? That
Yeah.
analogy is getting a little bit burnt out. not
It makes sense.
not leaning itself to that, but yeah, generally that idea is, I think it's important.
Yeah. I want to go back to, so you've told me this story of Costa Rica a few years ago. Like you had an experience there.
Guatemala.
Oh,
It
it's
was
Guatemala. Okay, it's one of those
Yeah, but I
Central
want to go
American
to Costa
countries.
Rica though. That's next
Okay.
on my list for sure.
Yeah, I would love just for like the kind of arc of this episode and kind of having a picture of your story and specifically that moment or those moments in Guatemala. Could you like recount what happened there? And I'm also curious, like,
I could
how
try.
did who you were before that event change versus after that event?
So our mutual friend Sarov told me something like very early on in our friendship when we first met, and Sarov is so tapped in. Like he really keeps me balanced in a great way. Um, but he kind of shared this idea with me that there's like certain things, and you'll hear this echoed all over the place in like spiritual teachings or even religions. Like there's a certain quality to like a divine like experience or sort of a transcendent experience that's literally just like it defies like description or like proper description. It's very hard to articulate, like even if you have just like a baller ass like um it like the language of some like advanced British scholar or something. It's still like you get kind of close and you might come out with something really poetic that connects with people, but it's like I have really, really realized that like I some days I get kind of close to describing what that experience was like on that trip, and some days I'm so far from it that it's just embarrassing and it almost feels disrespectful to the instance or
Mm.
to God or something. Not that I'm like doing anything wrong, but it's just like silly. It's like, why am I even doing this? So I'm sure even just saying that will probably connect with some people or probably connects with you. I'm sure you understand that feeling too. And so I'll try my best to kind of walk around what I experienced and how it changed me, because there's some obvious stuff. But even now, I think about things from a different angle, and I realize that there's 5 different ways that I can interpret what happened to me. And I'm not sure which one is true and whether they're all true or not. But long story short, I was getting really into, we were trying to expand into what it might look like to host on a bigger scale, like bring people together in the same style with the same intention of those dinners that we mentioned earlier, which is to have really deep connection, deep conversation, and pretty much like what I enjoy, I feel like most is like creating a relationship with people where they trust me enough. They're like, he's honest and transparent, but he also cares and he really likes deep things like I do, enough where they're willing to hold my hand and walk into like pretty deep waters together. Where it's like, okay, we're talking about things that are like challenging, that might be like very scary or emotional, but like I actually surprisingly feel comfortable doing this here at Leo's event because he's just set the stage in the right way and I can trust him. I think that's what I've witnessed I'm able to kind of do with people and what makes me really happy. And it feels sort of like a brotherly kind of experience. Like it's just yeah, that's what I try to replicate. And so doing like a ton of dinners like this, I was seeing people just have these amazing experiences of catharsis, whether it was publicly sharing something that was weighing on their heart that they'd never shared publicly, and then feeling this like release and like this real sense of like dropping a lot of guilt and shame by like having other people reflect back to them that their situation is not that unique or scary or weird, or just having people sit down and break bread with other people that were just really inspiring and that just really brought the love and were super sharp minded and open hearted, and having that just kind of like, oh, I didn't know that this still existed or that this was even a thing. I've had a lot of stuff like that happen. And then we were like, me and my partner, Matt, were like, how do we like amp this up? Is there a way that we could like make money off this? Can we like turn this into a career? Because we were both in love with the experience and how it was playing out. So we're like, okay, the logical thing would be like, take it from like a 3 hour event and make it like a 3 day event or maybe a 7 day event. And I had a friend, still do have a great friend named Rena, who is I mean, she's just an absolute angel. She had already been traveling the world for about 10 years, hosting retreats and sort of doing what I was doing, but on like more of a retreat scale, and had, again, a long list of incredible stories. And she was sort of just like fully in that world. And so we were like, hey, let's host something together. Like, I'll bring the people because I'm really great at picking out people for an experience like this, and she'll sort of create the space and help me create an agenda. And that's how that trip came about. I brought some great people out from Texas and from around the States. And me and my business partner, Matt, flew out there, met Rena, pulled up to a beautiful, like, sort of just like Airbnb situation, but like a massive house with like a really nice courtyard and entrance to Lake Atitlan. And we just locked in for like 8 days as a group. And it was like, okay, we have some ideas about what we're going to do on this retreat. Um, and, but we're going to kind of take it day by day and let Rena work her magic in the same way that I'm not great at articulating what I do in the pocket when it's like game time. Rena also doesn't really do that, but she's just so fantastically tapped in with that type of event. And she's just, yeah, she's like a huge
Mm.
inspiration to me. So fast forward 8 days in, everything's going well. We've had some like, it's truly going far better than I ever imagined it would. And the funniest part about this is I came in like ready to have my like and like guide, like helpful coach, like locked in, be grounded, be like, like hold the space for people hat on. And very quickly I realized that like, okay, this experience is like gonna be me also doing every exercise fully, like putting myself into it really hard, because things were already coming up for me. And as much as I was like grasping to this identity of like just kind of holding space and being this like cool, like masculine leader guy, I was like, holy shit, like I'm really being asked to like also like go deep into these concepts that I didn't even know were there. And there was things about like really deep shame and guilt that I was holding on to, that certain conversations over dinner were like, it felt like a space where I could kind of open up about that too. And there was like some physical things we did. We had a girl teaching yoga for us on site who put us through some really interesting like flows and stuff that I'd never done before, that was also building a lot of energy in me. And I didn't know like anything about yoga before this. I was just like, oh yeah, it's like an exercise thing. But as the days progressed, I was like, wow, I feel my body loosening up. I feel like areas that were really tight and tense starting to open. And so more energy was coming up. And by the last day, um, everyone's had a great time. We were like family at this point. Like we had a bonfire on the last night, and it was like one of the most, like, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it, because it's just like under the stars on the beach in Guatemala. If anyone knows Lake Atitlan, they know that it's like just an absolute like hot spot for this, just, how do I say this in like a non-cringy way? It just feels really dense with this like spiritual potentiality. Like it feels like you enter like if if you're like near like an aggravating hum, like a 5G tower or something, or like some big electric generator that's like feels physically like jarring to be near, it's like the inverse of that. It's like if you entered this space that is like calming and immediately grounding. And I don't know what contributes to that, but it's like obviously there's so much Mayan culture around the water. You're in the middle of 4 volcanoes. Like there's got to be just some crazy like quality to the place. Maybe it's like an earth chakra point or something, but you show up there. And so we're sitting at this bonfire, all kind of like shoulder to shoulder under the stars. And we just kind of start talking about uh, each other. Like, yeah, this is what I noticed in you over this week. This is what I noticed in you. And this is like a pocket that I can really get in and just start ripping. Like, I think somewhere where I enter just like a different kind of like flow or channeling is when I've spent enough time with a group of people and I've really witnessed their strengths and the things that are like beautiful and unique about them that might not be super obvious. I'm so happy to be the voice for that. Like literally, it's almost like my brain just shuts down and the heart just starts ripping, or God's just speaking through me like, yo, Leo, you have to be a tool in this moment to help the people at this circle just like recognize themselves a little bit more. And I'm like, okay, like hands off the wheel, like whatever. And so I just kind of did that the last night, and it was so gratifying and so great. And I could see people really loved it. And then we just went around the circle and sort of did similar stuff. But um, the next morning, everyone's flying out. Everyone's loading up into a van. They're going to the airport. I'm staying an extra 4 days to debrief with Rena and to just enjoy Guatemala after the pressure of kind of being like the host, along with Matt as well. Um, and this is where the experience got really interesting. And this is where I feel like it's like an acute moment for me is we all go into the master bedroom. It's me, Rena, and Manuk, who is the girl who is teaching yoga the whole time, who is also in her own right incredibly tapped in, bro. Like I learned so much from these two women on this week. It's unbelievable. And I'm exhausted. I'm super sleep deprived. The whole just emotionality of the last night was still just weighing on me. And it was like, it was great, but it's a lot. So I'm laying on this bed. Manuk and Rena sit down, and Manuk is like, or Rena is like, yo, like I feel so much density and weight. Like I can, like, she's finally realizing that she can stop after about 2 months straight of hosting back-to-back retreats every single week for 2 months straight. She is finally done. So it's her last day. And I think her body and her heart and her mind all knew that. It's like when you like get close to your bed and you just start getting super tired, or you get close to your own bathroom and you're like, oh shit, I gotta go. For her, it was just like the walls are starting to come down and she's feeling like tons of emotions come up. All the weight of like sitting with people while they're sharing their darkest secrets with her, the weight of people crying in her arms, the weight of people being extremely frustrated and her having to kind of push forward for the group. And I'm like, I did a week of that and I'm feeling like burnt out. So I can't imagine the weight that she's kind of carrying like emotionally. And so Manuk starts walking her through just a meditation. She's like, I'll just walk you through like this, kind of a deep like hypnosis meditation thing so you can maybe like let go of some of this stuff. And I found that super fascinating. So I'm kind of laying on the bed, just passively listening to her do this, right? I'm like nearly asleep as well. And she starts walking her through this meditation, and Rita immediately starts crying. And so now I'm just kind of like almost holding space, like the energy, like I want to be like a grounded, stable person as well. And she says, I want you to visualize that you are taking all the weight of this energy that you're holding, all these experiences that are still kind of fresh on your mind and in your body. I want you to walk outside to the yard where that massive tree is. And I want you to visualize yourself putting your hands on the tree and just allowing the energy to flow out from you into something grounded and stable and then back into the earth, and just see what that sensation feels like. And so in my like half asleep mind, I'm kind of also following along. Like I'm very easy to hypnotize, by the way. If anyone wanted to like steal my stuff or like make me act like a chicken, bro, instantly, bro. And Manuk has this like beautiful hypnotic voice. She's a really good like instructor practitioner. So I follow along with, and I started to feel like the craziest, like boiling volcanic feeling of emotions come up out of me, that like I was like scared. I was like instantly like I'm gonna start crying too, and that's not my role here. Like in my mind, I had this identity of being like the stable guy. So I run out of the room. I go into one of the other bedrooms, close the door, lock the door, and just start bawling super hard. And this is after doing the whole, just kind of walking through this sensation of release. It's basically like she's helping someone release, and I fell into that same process. And I start bawling, bro. Like this is the hardest I've ever cried in my life to memory. Like I'm sure when I was a kid, maybe I've cried harder, but I've broken bones. I've had like horrible hospitalizing injuries, and I've never like cried even close to this much. So it was very different. And it was scary at first too, but then it started to feel great. And it just, ideas and feelings and concepts and visions just started to flow out of me like a river, bro, or like a volcano erupting. And at the crux and the core of a lot of it was relationships to, man, it's kind of like, I've read really deeply into it. I think it's beautiful symbolically, the fact that a lot of, I think what I was holding on to was relationship to like femininity and women in my life, that I had a lot of anger and hatred and resentment towards, like deep anger. And it's like I trained myself as a man to be like, you don't let anger out on your mom. You don't let anger out on the women in your life. You have to be calm and measured and stable and non-reactive. Like this is all what I was conditioning myself into over the past 10 years prior, pretty much, was how to be like a stable, not super emotional guy who can essentially just be the tree for the woman. And I've since learned that obviously masculinity and femininity as polarities are not gender exclusive, and that I'm a very creative and like watery and flowy person. So I was for sure like strangling myself into like a shape that I was actually not. And this experience broke that shape basically. Like it forced me out of it, is what it felt like. And it was just weird that I got all these feelings of sadness for the loss of my grandmother, who is like the most important like paternal figure in my life. She was huge in my childhood. Instantly when I walk out to the tree in this visualization, I felt her presence in a really, really deep and like somatic way. I saw her face even, and it was like too much for me to handle. I just ran out of the room because she had passed years prior, and I never really grieved. Like no one taught me how to grieve. I didn't have an understanding of it. I just, not a single tear shed. It was just a weird sort of like, okay, that happened. Like that's really sad and I miss her. But it was never like a actual felt grieving. I think that all started to come out then. There's a lot of anger and rage towards my mother that came up, and I felt sort of through all of this, just like this, I love you so much, Grandma. I'm so sorry that I haven't been expressing this as much as I actually feel it. Like there's been a weird blockage, like this love for my grandmother. And I forgive you, Mom. Like I'm so sorry for holding so much against you. I just don't know where to put that energy. I've never learned how to exercise it, but I've just been holding all this anger. And so that kind of dual interplay was like what the experience was most focused on for me in that moment. And it was just unlike anything I've ever experienced. And it was really weird and sort of like unintended. And it was just funny how people will go to like therapy sessions or an event like the one that I host or something like that, or even like a Vipassana retreat like what you did, to have an experience like this. And I just like stumbled into it, like kind of drunkenly like fell into this experience that ended up like completely fundamentally rewiring how I view myself, my experience, the world around me, the people in my life, like the emotions that I feel on a daily basis. And it's just so, without trying to like actually get too deep into the weeds there because I feel like that's already a pretty long rant in description. That was sort of the core portion of what happened to me out there in Guatemala. And from there, it was basically just I would say like 2 to 4 weeks of just daily, more minor versions of that in different ways. Like it just did not stop. The next day, it was me sitting down with a journal and not being able to do anything but write like poetry or like poetic stuff, like what I read you the other day. That just came out of me in one shot without thinking about it at all. And it's like, it's so like, it's just weird to like feel like a piece of your soul is now something tangible you can actually share with people, because I didn't consider myself an artist or a creative person, but it was just me like sitting down and having that come to me the next day. And then the day after that, being like having a couple conversations with friends of mine that were the most loving, the most honest, the most supportive I've ever been in my whole life. And being like, bro, if I could just do that for people on a regular basis, I could be a coach if I wanted to. I could be the things that I dream up in my mind that I've always been too scared to shoot for. But there was just this, God was giving me this tangible proof that I have all of the ability and the faculties needed. So I'm thinking to myself, like, what changed then? Like, why am I just able to do this now? And I don't have the answer to that question, to be honest with you. I think the closest that I've come to is that sometimes God just meets you when you're ready, or at that part in your life where you're asking to find the next thing or to be used, like, hey, I want to be a vessel for service. I want to be something more than just the guy who's working to make money or to like get girls or to like look cool or have some sort of like validation online. I want more than this. And I was definitely in that state in my life. It just wasn't pretty and it wasn't clear. And I wasn't this like yogi sitting in lotus posture, like, let me like contemplate this idea. I was just like, trying everything and like, um, and putting myself out there. So to sort of wrap that maybe in a nice way and answer that question, it was my first transcendent experience, and it was the first time in my life where I could point to a time or a thing that happened and be like, I experienced God there. I felt this overwhelming sense through all of that catharsis, through that creativity, and through that connection to other people, that I was like being like fully animated. Like if I was like if I'm like a vessel, and I truly don't like, the limits are actually very, very high to what I can do in the sense of like affecting others or creating beautiful things like art, or just genuinely experiencing joy and freedom and fun in myself in the way that other people. I was probably at like 20% or 10%. And that took me up to like 50, 60, or 70, like almost overnight. And then I experienced that for like a couple months afterwards, where it was like this slow decline back to kind of closer to what I was used to. But it was like limitless pill. Like genuinely, it's like I can't say enough like insane things. Like I don't have the words to describe the feelings, but it was just a simultaneous sense of well-being and purposefulness and confidence and capability, but not in a way that I would attribute to me, more in a way where I was like, holy crap, like whatever is animating me and has decided to incarnate or whatever and live Leo's life is like fully playing the game now. Like we're actually locked in. We're not like passively sort of like it was. Yeah, so that's the best I can describe it, I guess. And then just since then, that was a couple years ago. Since then, I've just been obsessed with understanding what happened, but also just continuing to be like, God, thank you so much for showing yourself to me and for making yourself felt. And if there's anything that I can do to live closer to that state on a regular basis, please show me. And then I've just gone on rabbit holes and, all sorts of stuff to sort of discover that further. But yeah, what a gift, bro. Like, I feel so lucky to have experienced just a crazy, like, acute experience like that.
Dude, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah,
My heart
man.
is like aflame right now.
And I mean, of course, there's literally like 30 or 40 little mini stories that I could tell you that would continue to illustrate how cool that period of my life was. Just like I could probably write a memoir just about that, in the same way that like I love books like Autobiography of a Yogi, where you get this long vision of a life or an incarnation. Um, and I could totally paint that for somebody, but we don't have all day, but But some of those are also just for me to be like, wow, there's not a chance that's coincidence. That like that doesn't fall into the category of coincidence. What just happened to me that felt far
Mm.
beyond that, or like, man, like this person is something different. Why am I meeting all these people in quick succession now? It's like you become this. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. You know, I feel so much reverence from you and humility about this experience you had. Like in the way you're describing it and articulating it, I didn't feel any kind of like I that's driving. Obviously, like you're mentioning, like you're a vessel. Like this is a gift that God gave me, and just your posture to it is it's I don't know, it's I want to say refreshing, but that's kind of throwing shade in a way. Um, I, the thing
Well,
is,
I just never would have. There's just no way I could have interpreted that as being me alone. It was such like a fast switch and like a waking up, and I didn't really shoot for it. I just kind of like got lucky and fell into it. Like it genuinely felt like the planets aligned for me. Like it felt like
Mm,
many things was happening all at once, and I was trying to keep up with what was happening. But it was just like, okay, this is. It's just that, yeah. It's man. Sometimes things happen and you catch even 10% of what went into an experience for you, and you realize that even that 10% was so fucking intricate and perfectly orchestrated where you're like, okay, I'm convinced of a higher power or a divine intelligence or a universal consciousness that's like, that is not me, bro. It's like being a 1-year old and looking at your parent like, I'm just like, I don't know, like drive the car and be on the phone and like, you're like, this is so far beyond what I would be able to do right now that I'm just going to sit back and feel happy that I'm in the presence of such a powerful,
mm,
how do I, yeah, like that I'm just being, the whole time I felt like I was just being cared for. And it's no small point in that it started with a reconnection to a sensation of maternal, like, protectedness and connectivity, because I mean, that has stuck with me as in a very big way how I experience the divine. Or if I had like when I do have sort of a personified relationship with a higher power, it comes to me and connects with me most deeply in the feeling of like a paternal caretaker, if that makes sense,
mhm.
like a grandmother. So I don't, I've always just had this sensation that I'm walking beside something that loves me and cares for me. And when I ask, I am given. And when I confide in, I'm comforted. Like it's a very like give and take relationship that I have, and it's been like that since that moment.
Mm.
So there's been no opportunity for me to be like somehow egotistical, like I created any of this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I've talked to so many people that have had their own kind of flavor or version of, you can call it an awakening, but whatever you want to call that, some transcendental experience that kind of they stumbled into. Um, and I've seen kind of an aftermath. I've seen like confusion, a grasping of I want that back. I've seen the ego take hold of like, oh, that's who I am. I am something that's greater than a human being, kind of thing. Um, so it's for me, it's so interesting noting the way your posture is towards this. Just compared to some others I've talked to and spoken to. I think there's something to this, like not this the sense of I that is kind of like not there. That allows something like this to show itself, that I'm personally really obsessed with. Like I haven't had that kind of an experience, but in my own way, I am, like I'm saying funny enough, but I'm kind of dismantling my sense of identity too, slowly. Like I'm at a
mm,
stage right now in my life where, like, in the Vipassana retreat in January that I went to, I realized that the cause of my suffering was trying to change the present moment. Like it hit me like a ton of bricks. I realized like, wow, even trying to pine for an experience with God to me was like, wait, that's me rejecting what is here right now. Right. So at least the way I was, there's a way to yearn that's more, open and free. But I was definitely like, I want this experience. Like there was something about my worth that was tied to like, oh, if I have this experience, then I know I'm worthy, or something like that. Um,
yeah, I still have a lot of things in my life that I feel that way about, if I'm being honest. So it definitely is a journey.
yeah.
It's also a very innocent and honest thing too, because I feel like for you and I both, the things that we are tethered to, or the things that we desire, are truly great. Like truly like great. It's not like you're like, I want the Beamer and I'm like, yo, I want like a supermodel girlfriend. It's like, okay, those are like way down the line of things. It's like I'm like, I want like Dharma. And you're
Yeah.
like, I want to feel and experience God. I want to sit with God. It's like, okay, like these are pretty worthy things to yearn for. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's got to be. It obviously is part of that process to sort of discover that what you're doing, to the way that you're asking for the thing, is simultaneously like stiff arming it away from you in a way. But
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. I would love to hear
No,
more
no.
about that, honestly.
No, so yeah, like during the retreat, I just had this. It was a realization. It just hit me, and this is what they teach you. Obviously, this is what Buddhism's all about. It explains, the cause of our suffering and whatnot. And
Hmm.
yeah, it just hit me, and all of that clinging and grasping for something else other than what is here right now stopped. And ever since January, so it's been about 4 months now. It's just been a gradual
Wow,
journey
it's
of
been
like,
that long already.
I know it's
Wow,
been
it
a
feels like
gradual
yesterday.
journey of like letting go more and more as
Mm,
it occurs to me, as it comes to me. Like the present, I've basically realized the present moment is infinitely layered, and so
mm,
I'm just seeing one layer as it shows itself to me, and the moment I see it, it disappears, and then something beneath it shows itself to me, and once I see it, it disappears. And
mm.
life is just, I've just been slow. Like life feels like it's slowing down for me recently. Um, I've been doing identity like work, you could call it. It's basically like non-dual. I'm starting to understand non-dualism in a way that I can't really put into words. But there's this element of
Put me on
surrender.
with whatever you've been doing, man. That sounds great. Put me
Dude,
on with that.
I'm happy to. There's a book I read by this author I came across on TikTok. She that book was like game changer for me. It was, and then I reached out to her, and now she's my coach. So
Oh, wow. That's
yeah.
awesome. Okay, yeah, I do need to check this girl out. But sorry, you were talking about surrender.
Yeah, just surrender. Like, I know you. I have a whole segment or question I wanted to ask you about words, right? Because surrender
Hmm.
is a word. We're pointing to something with these words. So I'll do my best to explain what I mean, but it really is just like the absence of the I, right? Like what exists in the absence of the I, and can you deepen into that? And in a way, it's not even a doing; it's a witnessing, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So it
Hmm.
gets really philosophical with this stuff, but in my own way, like for some reason, I always have like I can see like what's coming next. Like I can kind of like I have a sense of what, and and the way it ends up happening is never like what I could have imagined. So it's just weird thing of like I know what's the next step to take to walk towards God, and the hubris I may have of I know what it's going to feel like and look like and be like is always shown to be false. I mean, the hubris is true in the sense that like it doesn't look like anything what I could have imagined. Um, but I'm learning to trust that. Like that's just my guiding system. Like the Dharma stuff we're talking about. Like I think that's just the way I'm wired, and it's like it's okay. Um, and I have a very like deep. It used to be paranoia, but now it's like I could call it discernment of
That's
the
great.
of the texture of ego. Like I feel ego very
Mm,
like microscopically. Um, and so I feel it in other people too, and that's why I'm able to really I really feel this egolessness in how you describe this whole experience. It's really like it's just resonating with me right now. So
great. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad you feel that way. That's good. That's good. Yeah, ego is something that I've been also contemplating a lot, because I consider myself not in a malicious way, but like a very egoic person. Like my whole developmental, there's just so much focus on myself, so much self-protection, and being so concerned with how I look and sound and come off to other people. And I think this is like even with what you just mentioned about the fact that you have this ability to future project, you're basically an X-Men, so that's kind of cool. But but like, who was saying this? Some teachers, a monk that I was listening to about Dharma, I was just kind of like listening to it hop on Dharma, and he was like, when you have your thing or whatever, like whatever it is, the skill that you have, your X-Man trait, it is going to have a light and a dark side. Like it will always have a light and a dark side, which is really nice. I'm like, okay, great. That's a very in alignment with how the world works and how God creates way of looking at Dharma as well, which is that if you're having a hard time figuring out what you're good at, um, figure out your shadow and see if that has an inverse relationship to what you're actually good at that you just haven't been acknowledging or like using at all. So for you, if you're like, I'm a naturally anxious person or something, and you realize that your anxiety is because you're living in the future because you low-key have a very sharp, like, your brain is just designed to be able to watch things play out in a strategic and intelligent way. What is the positive inverse of that? How does that become a tool for the betterment of yourself or other people? That's just like such a cool way to look at it. And for me, yeah, maybe similar as well, like living very egoically and concerned with how I come off and how other people are interpreting me was a manifestation of me being very attuned to other people's opinions and feelings. But I've just started to figure out ways to be like, okay, it fucking sucks to sit in the corner and be like, do I look stupid? Do I sound stupid? Does she like me? Does he hate me? Like, I've been that guy for long stretches of time, and it's literally like hell on earth. And then I'm like, what is my heaven on earth? I'm using that to somehow create a great dynamic for other people and for myself, this perceptiveness. But I just think that's like a really beautiful idea.
Yeah.
Um,
yeah. 100%. 100%. Yeah. It's like what is the gift of our shadows? Like we go into the shadow and then it becomes a gift because like through the descending into the shadow, you understand it, you see it, you feel it, you embody it.
You see the full picture.
Yeah.
Like the three dimensions of the thing that you're holding. You're only ever looking at the light side of things, and you get this kind of vague, sort of like scaredy and dangerous vision or something. And then you see both sides, and you're like, okay, this is actually not that intimidating. Yes, I'm perverted. Yes, I'm egotistical. Yes, I have aggression. It's like we all do. Like I don't need to hide from these qualities. Right. They make up who I am. Yeah.
Right. Did you have like going into this retreat that you hosted? Did you have like a strong spiritual framework or anything? Were you familiar with these ideas or?
No, not strong. I mean, I had read Michael Singer a bit, so that's a really great starting point. It seems like for people to get into yogic philosophy. And I had read David Data, which again, like I mentioned polarity earlier, I was like starting to kind of understand what it meant, like these energetics of polarity. But I was just leveraging all of this stuff to feed my ego. It was like, okay, I'm gonna read David Data to be like a better like boyfriend, which meant just forcing myself to be a guy that I'm not. Like I'm just gonna be hyper masculine essentially, even in like a spiritual bro sense. I was still just being egotistical and doing it to like prove to myself that I'm a man or that I'm desirable or whatever. And then the Michael Singer stuff was beautiful, but I don't know. I just didn't have I didn't have this experience or this motivation to sit in contemplation, and like the idea of like the observer, like this observer state never mattered to me. I don't know why. Maybe because I don't have a very loud or active inner dialogue that feels like abrasive or uncomfortable to me. Let me take that back. That it can get bad at times, but I had never diagnosed that as being a big issue in my life, like Michael Singer had outlined in like Surrender Experiment, where he was just talking about like had this deep fascination with understanding this voice in his head. I was like, I don't even really know what you guys are talking about. Like maybe because I'm just always talking to people or some shit. So ADHD, I'm not like sitting with this sensation. But so yeah, I mean, I had engaged with some of it, but nothing like clicked in that obsessive way like it did afterwards, where I'm a very like just throw me into it. Like you can talk to me about how to play baseball, but just put the bat in my hand and like let me go swing it, and I'll understand what you mean. I think once I hit the ball once, and then I'm in love with the experience. I'm very like feely, experiential kind of person. So, yeah, that's kind of how it was for me. And then I don't know. I read The Alchemist when I was young. I tried to read Eckhart Tolle. It just everything. It was just all of it was like a bit too like dry and out there for me. It wasn't like teaching me how to make money or get girls, so I wasn't hooked. But yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I always wonder like for how can someone, I don't even think someone can do this. Like you can't go and create or manufacture your own awakening or your own transcendental experience. I feel like it kind of just happens when it's time in a way that you can't foresee.
And that's the magic. That's what I was going to comment on earlier about you having this future projection thing. Like the first thing that popped in my mind is how like torturous that would be for me, because it does seem like a sick like anime character move to be like, yes, like push his glasses up, like I'm the strategist. But for me, I love the mystery and the feel. Like I love the feeling that like I I'm not really doing that much. I'm just sort of being a good child and a good like son and asking for things that I do desire. And then the magic is that when I wake up on Christmas morning, my parents have packaged presents under the tree and I get to have that elation and that joy. That's what it feels like when God brings things to me, circumstances that I've asked for. But I don't want to go through all the micromanaging. Like I don't want to wake up early and go see what's going on under the tree. Like no, dude, I love the experience of it just feels like this, yeah, this sense of just I don't have to know everything, and that's very comforting to me. Again, I keep using that analogy of parent and child because I think it really beautifully illustrates it. Like if you take a child and take their parent away and make them grow up very fast, and now they're a 10-year-old who knows how to tie their shoes and knows how to pack their lunch and knows how to get on the bus, life starts to lose its magic a little bit, I think, in ways. And I don't know if that's just because they have to do things on their own or if it's because there's a removal of this caretaker sensation. But I I feel like I feel like I felt that in myself being having no connection to a higher power or God. Like I wasn't raised religious. I didn't wasn't even handed any like even remotely a spiritual framework. The only people that mentioned God in my life was like my grandma would like say funny prayers and she was technically Catholic but not really practicing, but she would just kind of do things like we'd be driving around together and she would need a parking spot and she'd be like, okay, close your eyes and pray. We're gonna like pray for a
Mm.
parking spot, like if you envision it, we'll get it. And then would get it and I'd be like, oh, we did it, like that was like my first little like manifestation thing. But yeah, I just feel like again, yeah. So that analogy of like a child without a feeling of being cared for or protected, like just provided for and protected, you have to do everything on your own is like really scary. And I feel like it takes a lot of the like peace and fun and relaxation out of the experience of being a child that's needed. And I feel like as an adult, the same thing. Like you no longer rely on your earthly parents, but you do, if you have that relationship, have this reliance on God, our higher power,
Mm.
or however you want to manifest it. For me, it just feels like a personified thing, and that feels so good and so right to me. And I don't know, maybe someone would look at that and be like, "You're doing it wrong." Like that's such a small comprehension of what God is. You have to look at it as the complete unmanifest. Like I know that you have more of a connection to the concept of God or higher power in that sort of Vedantic, like like very like Brahman energy. For me, it's like I just really cherish this feeling and this relationship that I've built with a higher power and with God that feels like parent and child. And every time I lean into that more, where it's like, what would it feel like if I relaxed and let my parents handle this situation for me? Or what would it feel like if I didn't need to know the answer myself definitively, but I could go ask and receive an answer from someone wiser and more infinite than me? That relationship is super nurturing.
Mm.
You probably didn't ask for that answer. I just am ranting on this again, but
I love it.
um, one of
I
my
love it.
favorite like things to think about because I think yeah, again, like reading all those books and having nothing click, and then reading Yogananda and reading Ramakrishna and being like, it clicks. Like I understand what they're talking about because I have that relationship as well.
Yeah. It's so interesting because like yeah, I've tried so hard to connect with that kind of like it's more of like a bhakta or like a bhakti path, right? Of like you have
That's what they would probably say. Yeah.
yeah, a personal relationship to some form of God. And I went down so many rabbit holes, so many different paths, so many different gurus and gods and this and that, and nothing stuck for me. I even met, Andres, who's like one of our mutual friends who has a very, deep connection to Jesus. And for a while I thought like, oh, Jesus, he is the closest. Honestly, to this day, he's probably the closest like representation of this formlessness that
Same.
I'm drawn to.
Yeah.
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 He's probably the most, I mean, he was literally a human being. So just by definition, he's the most relatable. Like you can imagine, there's depictions of this person in different shows and movies and whatnot that allow us to make like, it's more tangible.
He's the greatest example that humanity has of what would it be like if God was personified. Like that's
Right.
what most people would lean towards. That's the whole idea behind modern Christianity, is that we have God visited us in human form. And so we can just pray to him and speak to him, and therefore he is our access to God. That's kind of the idea, at least in the way
Yeah.
that it's like applied,
Yeah.
Not
So
exactly what he believed in, but
right,
yeah.
right. But yeah, like even with Jesus for a while, like I was very much drawn to him, and then it at the Vipassana thing, all of this stuff faded away. And I can't explain this draw I have to like the formlessness. It's like I would even call it like more of just like it's a field. Like I just feel the field. Like it's just like everything and nothing and everything that's contained with it, and that's what I'm like. And it's so hard sometimes to move through this life with that orientation, because we're like people, and like there's a relationship with another being that has his own perception of reality. And so like when you have a personal kind of relationship with God of some form, it's like in a way that's how we relate to each other. Like it can teach you how to relate to your fellow beings, in a way that's like loving and unconditional. And I think coming to Austin, growing up in Southern California, spending much of my life there, coming to Austin taught me how to actually relate to myself and therefore to others, like truly, to be
What
myself.
do you mean by relate to yourself?
I was just following the script of life before. I was just following the stuff I'm supposed to do. So I wasn't connected. Like, how you were saying, I forgot what the example was. I forget.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time just forcing myself to be something I'm not as well.
Yeah.
Like with all my might, pretty much. Yeah.
You're talking about like as a boyfriend, like, you're trying to put yourself into this masculine role. And like I was doing that, except with like the career and the friends I do and friends I have and the activities we partake in. And there was some element of like real me in there. Like, it came out at times.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah.
But my life was mostly just like, I'm just following a script, and I never felt connected to myself. So coming here, and basically it's honestly been a 1 year sabbatical is what it feels like. Finding myself, and I found myself through others. You're one of those people. Obviously our friend Andres is one of those people. Corey's one of those people. Like there's multiple people here that have shown me like, well, this is what it looks like to be connected to yourself. And look how much joy is present in this person. And I didn't have models for that. I didn't have role models or people that were like in their joy, in their truth, until I moved here. So yeah. And I think that's like, that is like, in a way, like that's the bhakt in me. There's a part of myself that like I truly love now. And I'm learning, again, going back to that permission of like, the more I permit myself to be who I am every moment, the more in love with myself, the more in love with life I fall. And then this question of like, what is God, what is not God, is slowly starting to fade away, because it almost doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. I don't think everybody was put here to walk around articulating their experience to everyone on this grand scale. I think there's like certain people that are here for that, and that's a gift they've been given. Like they just, like a Rumi or a Yogananda, like people who can just put their experience in words in a way that like truly transmits a sliver of that to other people and like activates. Some people are here for other things though. Like we're not here to like perfectly paint the picture of what's going on. And you're just, like you said, you're here to like, okay, let's put that to the side. That's a second order thing that'll be nice if I do meet people that understand exactly what I'm going through. But that's not the point. The point is to know what I'm going through, to sit with that and to feel it and be like, I'm experiencing it. This is what it feels like to be me, or this is what it feels like for me to connect to a higher power. Maybe it'll grow. Maybe it'll get even more vibrant if I just sit with it rather than just like immediately run to like my friend to tell them about it, or like rip a like sick Twitter post that everyone's gonna like. It's like, it's like, fuck, bro. Like, it's one of the modern pitfalls that people probably didn't have to deal with in the same way back in the day, because not everybody was pushed to be an influencer, to have their voice be heard by like a bunch of people. It was more like, life was just having fun and experiencing it. Like go surf all day, and maybe you find like some surfer friends that you connect with who understand you, but you don't need to like have everybody see what you like about surfing in order for it to be valuable. I think that's what a lot of people have fallen into. Or yeah, if you're just oriented towards other people's approval naturally, like I am, and like you were, or I was, and you were in different ways, then yeah, that would be the natural thing. Is as soon as you start to experience that, you want to go find someone else who can validate that experience and tell you that it's true and tell you that it's right and tell you
Yes.
that this is actually God and that,
Yep.
this is actually who you are. And it's like, okay,
Yep. I was doing
then
that.
how do we answer that? Is that the kind of life you want? Do we want to live? Do we want to be on our deathbed doing like great? Enough people
Yeah.
approved of me or understood me that therefore life was worth living. Like,
It's a lie. Yeah, it's a lie.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then the cool thing is, I think that the more you lean into who you are and what you're all about and what lights you up, the more you just become like a magnet for other people that feel that same way. At least that's the gift I've been given in my life. Is a very short periods between me feeling like if I'm really being myself and feeling like there's other people around me who get me, it's small periods. I've never been put in the Sahara Desert for like a year just feeling completely alone and isolated. God has just gifted me with like really great,
Mm,
super like just present and connected people in my life. So
that's so beautiful. I love that. I love
I'm just
that.
lucky,
I
bro.
think I'm this. I think honestly, me too. Despite having been so disconnected, I don't. I've never felt isolated or completely alone. So
Mhm.
that's a gift. That's a gift.
It's all part of the game. It's all
Yeah.
part of the game. I'm someone who just gets so much energy from other people. So being so extroverted, I think God would sort of package a lot of my lessons in with other people in a way. It just moves with the flow of who I am versus someone who's way more contemplative, like our friend Saw or something. He's gotten, I think, a lot of the juice of his life from actually sitting with himself, writing, reflecting. And that's why he's like, I don't even really have a desire to explain what happened to you. Like, I can't really, but I just know that it's real and it's what I want. And I'm like, that's beautiful, bro.
Mm,
So the comparison game is, yeah, it's not there. It's just funny
yeah.
when you're both just smiling at each other, like, yeah, like, life's good. In my own way, I understand what you're talking about. Yeah.
I want to talk about words. I don't know why. We talked about this like one of the first few times we hung out, and I don't think it was ever really revisited. Um, I've noticed you have a very like intentional relationship to words. Your whole apartment, you have like stickies, like different affirmations and things that you want to say
Bro.
all over the place, which is so
Mm-hmm.
cool. So like I know we've kind of talked about this, but just to revisit it, like what's the origin story there?
Mm, I don't know. I've always been a talker. Like, I'm not a super shy or a man of few words kind of person. Um, I've never stopped listening to music my entire life. The lyrics and songs have always been big to me. I just grew up really liking to read, loving stand-up comedy. There's a lot of things in my life that taught me to appreciate the quality of words, how one word can make an entire room break into laughter, or one word can like make me start tearing up during a song or something. So I think it's probably always been there, but I didn't really discover like the power of like using words like a spiritual tool or something, like some piece of like technology and how I could do that until really like kind of around Guatemala time. Like I don't really think I was like really doing any sort of affirmation stuff. But after that I became so sensitive to things that right before the trip too, funny enough, I hard reset my whole Spotify because the music I was listening to was just so toxic. Like, and I've always loved music and singer-songwriter stuff, but I really got into like just gnarly hip hop as like a late teen into like early 20s because genuinely I think it was the right fuel for the lifestyle I was living. It was extremely hedonistic. It was super dark and dense, very like Rajasic, as they might say, like if you're familiar with those concepts, just very raise the energy up and just be fucking intense, like violence, money, sex, drugs. Like that was what I was flooding my brain with. And so I hard reset my whole Spotify before Guatemala, which is one of the best decisions ever because of how sensitive I was. But it was like coming out of that, I was like, oh my God, like I didn't know I could write poetry. I didn't know that listening to like a freaking Frank Ocean song was going to like transmit his entire emotional experience to me in 90 seconds. And I was going to have this roller coaster of like, of feelings. And that was just all stuff that was like, that was all there always for me. But I'd spent so much time dulling myself down and sensitizing myself to the world around me that I just didn't, like, it was never that apparent. And then after that trip, I was so just like neuroplastic and sensitive and like excitable and childlike that everything was just like hitting me for the first time. And so one of my closest friends, Will Coomer, gave me a book called The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn. And she's like basically like the grandmother of like this stuff in my mind. If people have ever heard of like Louise Hay, she's extremely famous. She has this publishing thing called Hay House where like a lot of the big people, I think Joe Dispenza, Wayne Dyer, many big spiritual people are kind of are under her umbrella, and she's known for being a big affirmations lady. So I love her, but her teacher, the woman that put her on game, is this woman, Florence Scovel Shinn, who was a writer at the turn of the century, very old school stuff. She was an illustrator, and then she was a spiritual teacher as well. So she's an artist and a teacher. And this whole book is just like this little, like wonderfully like wholesome and almost juvenilely written text where she pulls from the Bible and scripture, but she's constantly affirming how important your language and your use of words is. She's constantly talking to you about how your subconscious is this porous vortex where like if you say something to yourself, even in your mind, but a lot of it's just like the things you repeat aloud to yourself, the turns of phrase or the slang or whatever habitual way that you speak to yourself or about the world around you enters the subconscious, and the subconscious is like this just absolute magical vortex into like freaking Dumbledore's cauldron or something. Like it just goes in there and like God works their magic and out comes circumstance, and it's like the world starts to begin to reflect what's being processed and the dialogue that's being run in your subconscious. And a lot of people are completely unconscious to this idea. So they're just listening to NBA Youngboy talk about like robbing and killing people at 9 in the morning on the way to their freaking like their like service job. And then they're listening to like a podcast that's just nonstop self-deprecating shit talking humor. And then that just becomes their inner dialogue, and the slang and the words that they use. It's essentially like the most simple and easy way to understand the whole word thing, and what people like to say about it is like it's like spell casting. Like when you, I love this image in my mind of like an ancient sage or wizard druid type guy who's living in like by himself in seclusion most of the time, and then when he does ever need to speak ever, it's very intentional. Like he's literally uttering a spell. He's not walking around just blabbering lyrics to a song and like gossiping and shit talking. He's in very much in control of his creative faculties, and he takes very seriously the words that he speaks. And then when he does say them, they hold so much weight and potency, and he's thought about it, and then things come to pass. So I picture like a wizard in my mind. If you're a wizard who knew that like every word that came out of your mouth was a potential spell that would affect the world around you and your own circumstances, how would you speak in that instance? So that's kind of like a childish way of looking at it, but I think it's helpful to think about, because if you're like me and you start trying this out and applying it to your life in the sense that when you wake up in the morning, you say prayers where you're asking for blessings and you're asking for prosperity and abundance or forgiveness. Or a perfect example of this, I consider myself an extremely lucky person, and I love to verbally affirm that as much as possible because, dude, I've had certain things happen in my life where it's like I literally have to be the luckiest dude on the entire planet for this to have played out the way that it did. And I find that the more I affirm that identity and I repeat that to myself, I don't know how it's working, bro. Again, I'm kind of like an idiot. I'm just like a little kid, bro. Like I don't know how the fuck the magic is happening, or like I don't understand how a hot air balloon works or how a car engine works. I just enjoy the magic of it. Like I just get on the roller coaster and rock with it. And if you tell me like, okay, if you blow air into this little thing, bubbles come out. Like I don't need to know the fucking like science of how that works. I just am enjoying the experience of it. And that's kind of how I am with a lot of the things that you can ask me about that are spiritual. It's like, bruh, like I don't know how like like yoga goes so deep into like explaining there's a word for every single like vibration of like your mind and thought pattern in your brain. And there's also like really dense, heady, like other like new age, like turn of the century kind of like Christian mystic philosopher guys that have written long books on like how the subconscious works for healing or for manifestation. But I gravitate towards the Florence Scovel Shins, the Neville Goddards, the people who aren't really like, let's get into the weeds of the technicality. Let me just give you the sauce and the thing that works and go try it and tell me if it works for you. And that's what I started doing with this book. And it just also happened to find me when I was just absolutely as maxed out with my magic potential as possible. And so things were just, it was just very, very like beautifully shocking how quickly things started to, how do I put it? How much the world around me and my inner experience of life started to shift after I would use words in certain ways, like writing down manifestations in the written form and then speaking them aloud, almost acting them aloud to myself. And then I would go to bed and I would wake up and the thing that I would ask for would come to me. And there's a lot of like wacky, crazy manifestation stories online, but I was living them, bro. Like as crazy as the ones like I've since bought books about this subject, about synchronicity or manifestation, and read the stories and been like, bro, these are kind of like ass, bro. Like I feel like if we swapped in some of the stuff that happened to me into this book, it would be a lot more exciting and interesting. Like, so yeah, having that experience that was my first foray into like consciously thinking about words and such. And since then, I've fallen off. Like, when it comes to like being conscious of the words that I'm speaking or the things that I'm intaking, I'm very, very far from perfect. But at times when I need to start to take control of myself, whether that's me having a very anxious period of my life or me having some sort of like something that I really want to go well, like I truly care and value it, I will deploy the whole words thing like to my utmost ability. Like I'll design certain phrases or sentences and words that evoke a certain emotional quality in me that are tethered to the outcome that I want to see play out, or that are grounding and calming and affirming to this whole thing that I was telling you about, this relationship to God. And I'll just spam them all day long. I'll write notes down and put it in every place that I'm going to be throughout the day. And I'll let them basically I will like barrage myself subconsciously with these concepts. And within a matter of like hours to days, the anxiety shifts into excitement and hope and faith, or the outcome comes to pass in either the way that I wanted it to, or even better, typically. And I've sort of taken a step back from the whole manifestation thing over the past couple of years, because I think like philosophically, I think it's sort of incomplete. I think that like learning about how the East views things like manifestation has really supported and relaxed me on this whole needing to like, again, like we talked about, like know the outcome and pin that down. But there are ways to use your words that aren't so egoic or extractive, that are just purely generative and that get you back into the flow in the river, where you're supposed to be. Because I think a lot of the pain that I experience personally comes from just exiting this flow of life and being either looking too far back or too far forward, or just being spun out in some weird way about like fear and inadequacy or something. And I literally just need someone to say the things that I'm saying to myself, and I just say them to myself over and over and over again, and it just works. So maybe I'm just making like the most retardedly simple thing into like a big deal. But to me, this is profound. To me, it's profound, and it feels like jarring how effective it can be in an instant to hear certain words. Because I think in a more like analytical kind of like deeper look at it, like words are just sounds that we emit that represent something symbolically in our mind in a way. Like if I don't speak Spanish and they say a word to me and there's nothing there, then I might feel the energetic quality of the person as they say I love you, but if I don't know what amor means or whatever, like it's just nothing to me. But when I hear love, in my experience, in my life, in my mind, in my heart, I know what that word means. It has a certain energetic and emotional and spiritual quality to it. So if repeated, it's like you're two different things. You're your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. You're the adult Leo that's walking around, but you're also the little child Leo that lives inside of him that needs support and care and consolation at times. And so it's this tool that we've been given by God to like be the action taker or whatever, the be in sort of the driver's seat, I think. Just language in general, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's it's
It's
crazy.
interesting. I've tried a lot of affirmation type stuff where like I'll repeat gratitudes and affirmations, and it never felt good in my body. It felt like I was lying to myself when I would say these things. Like, I am a wealthy person who doesn't need to worry about money anymore or whatever. And like, obviously that's just not true. And that's just like a dumb example, but there's, flavors of that, variations of that I would try. I did this for a while and I couldn't get past the fact that like, it just didn't feel right. So I feel like there's something also about like tuning into the energy of like the reality that these words are representing. And then from that place, affirming or saying or repeating or whatever your practice is. I haven't tried that, but intellectually, I think that's if I were to do it, that's probably what I would do differently.
I mean, look at mantra. This is an
Right.
example that I actually connect to something that's a little bit more like perennial and eternal, is this concept of like mantra, which is like, there's even like there's sounds that affect us in a certain way, but also you can take a word and make it your mantra. You can just say peace over and over and over again. You don't need to make it too complex. Like, I am like a Ferrari driving billionaire with like a super hot wife. Like, you don't, it doesn't need, that doesn't need to be affirmation. Affirmation can just simply be connecting to, it does need to be connecting to truth in a way. Um, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's two different lanes to kind of go down talking about the whole manifestation affirmation versus
Mm.
just like nervous system as this sort of grounding in the reality of things. Yeah, I wish I could talk more about that, but honestly, I just feel like I would be too confusing and not know how to articulate that idea. But
Fair.
yeah, just because I love them so much, and I'm like trying to figure out a way to have you connect to the idea of it. Mantra is a great example of affirmation, and then I think you just build on it from there. If you're able to connect to things like mantra, then you are doing affirmations. I think that the West has just termed it like manifestation or affirmation. They've taken something that
Mm-hmm.
is eternal like that, and there's just that's the way of looking, which happens to a lot of great stuff. Is
Mm-hmm.
we get it in the West, and then it becomes this egoic, extractive thing, like I mentioned, where it's like now it's all about just getting sick cars or like making your life better than it is. It's like
Like
now
yoga.
yoga is just like a workout. Yeah, it's not like,
Exactly.
oh yeah. So like you do have to peel the layers back.
Yeah.
But yeah, Florence Scovel. If anyone's listening to this and is like wants to hear just an incredible, very short, easy book, I've gifted it to probably 20 people because it changed my life, and it's something I constantly return to when I need like something comforting and grounding. Um,
How do you spell it?
Fantastic entry point.
What's the name of the
Just
artist?
the game of life and how to play it is the book. It's a little yellow book. It's game changer, absolute game
Awesome.
changer.
Okay, I'll put this in the description.
But and also just to like the last piece of that is she is connecting to the whole time. It's not this how to get a Ferrari. She's just talking about how to return to the truth of what you are. And everything that she affirms is like all about abundance and safety and provision. Like these concepts that is actually who we are and the reality that we live in. And we have gotten lost out in our idea of disconnection, danger, fear, scarcity. Like a lot of people live in this cycle, and the nefarious, heinous, putrid thing that happens in modern day is that there's seemingly evil wizards flooding the social landscape and the culture, the modern culture, with deeply like unaffirming or corrosive and destructive phrases and languages and ideas. It's just everything from like
Mm.
it's just bad. It's bad. It's bad stuff out there. And she in that book teaches you how to do the inverse of that. Like it's like if dark magic is like plugging yourself into like really nego like bad shit and just kind of like fucking up your inner world, she's teaching you how to cleanse that again and get back to the natural state, which is actually everything's great. I'm very capable. I'm connected to a higher power. I'm connected to the people around me. I'm provided for, and the world is abundant. But if your life is just a constant like flow of like negative shit coming into you, you just end up becoming that. You end up just housing that inside of you, and then it plays out in your life basically. So that's yeah, which is
I love
was
that.
life changing for me. Yeah.
Are there any like words or phrases recently that you've been really resonating with that you keep returning to?
I think the strongest experience that I've ever had with affirmation after really getting into it and trying a lot of things was if you can mix in phrases that matter to you after something like breath work, where you're a lot more in like a theta, maybe not theta, I don't remember what it is, but you're in the brainwave state where you're very impressionable and very soft, and like words start hitting at that point. It's basically hypnosis, like self hypnosis.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, again, getting down into the root words or concepts was the hardest hitting thing for me. So if you are able to discover words that just light up energy in you, because they are out there, and now you have a crazy tool. Like, you don't need a paragraph long thing that you repeat to yourself. You need, for me, it was like the word power, which is very interesting. It wasn't love, and it wasn't like I am safe. That's a great one. I am safe. I am full of energy, whatever it is, like simple stuff like that. But and this is kind of schizo, but like sitting there doing breath work for 10 to 15 minutes and being really in this sort of theta, like just rhythmic state, and then just repeating the word power, power, or I am power. Not even I am powerful. I am power. The concept of power is me. It just sounds kind of wacky,
Mm.
but dude, the energy that that would unlock, and the rooted, just the literal power that that would unlock for me, I felt like I was like, oh my God, dude, I feel like I have literally God behind me, just like holding me, like, yeah, you can pretty much do anything. And it was just very weird, crazy experience that no one really taught me on. I just kind of discovered that on my own by trying to like reduce things down further and further. But yeah, that yeah, it's very interesting.
Like I think it was last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, I was doing a cold plunge at the lifetime that you came to recently.
Hmm.
And I'm not like, I did a cold plunge once before, like way back when, like a year or 2 years ago. And they were teaching me like, okay, long breaths in, long breaths out. Like that's how you kind of like ease into the shock that the
Yeah.
water. And I got in the water and I don't know what it was, but I started doing that because I remember someone taught me that way back. And some voice came in, and I was very like, I had just been in the sauna room. So I was very like in this very calm state, like you're describing, like theta state, I think. Some voice came in and was like, trust me and let go. Trust me and let go. And I realized, like after the fact, that the hyperventilation that happens when you first get into the water, I was like suppressing it because I thought it was shameful to do that. Because then you look like you're out of control. People are like, is this guy like a noob? Like he doesn't, go into the cold plunge. And this voice just kept saying, trust me and let go. Trust me and let go. And I started to hyperventilate like crazy, like just completely like for 20 seconds, just hyperventilating. And then there was a moment where like I was flooded with peace, like flooded. And
Mm.
the phrase trust me has been coming up in different situations where I feel overwhelmed. It just like immediately grounds me. And
It's beautiful.
it's like
It's it's all
self-hypnotism.
it's so overwhelmingly awesome when in that moment. Again, you can't, it's hard to put words to that experience, but it's like the greatest feeling of like often those sensations only come from like a circumstance outside of us, like things lining up well. Like for example, a funny one that I notice, a lot of people will be like, if you get a compliment, you just feel this welling of like, I am beautiful and I am dope and people like me. Now imagine if you could just elicit that sensation that you got when like a beautiful person gave you a compliment, but internally. And that is close to connecting to what I was trying to describe of like, you can use your own words as tools. I think maybe some people would do great with just visualization or something, but for me, words really work for that. Or, how great did it feel the last time you received like a huge paycheck or like a crazy big bonus? Like that sensation of just abundance, like I'm fucking rich, like this is awesome. Now imagine if you could just elicit feeling that way when you needed to strategically, or just kind of constantly live in that state. Is there, if I could promise you that, you know, most people would be like, hell yeah, that's awesome. I'll take whatever pill that is. It's like, it's not a pill. It's like, you have to sit with yourself and write flow state. And this is what the manifestation thing about like future projecting is, just like basically writing the reality down that you want to have happen until you start ripping. Like when you start, like when the bars come out and you're like, wow, that sentence is incredible. Like that truly encapsulates that feeling and it makes my heart open up. Now keep that sentence, or figure out what about that sentence lights you up. Sometimes there's weird trigger words. Like for you, it could be peace, safety, or trust. For me, it might be like power. I can't remember what the other ones that like were really ripping for me, but it was, yeah, certain words were just like, okay, this is the puzzle piece that I'm missing, and I found a way to fill this in a way. Yeah, it's a really interesting one. Yeah, that's a deep rabbit hole you can go down. That's really, really incredible.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, I'm good. I'm out of questions for right now. I think this has been an awesome conversation. I think we hit a lot of cool little tangents. How you feeling?
Great. I'm just talked about some of my favorite things in the world. So I'm excited. Yeah. Thanks for the great questions too. I haven't gotten to just like, as you can tell, probably I haven't got to just riff and spew on those in like a really long time. So it feels nice to, and also just a moment of like gratitude for all the stuff we talked about. It's such a nice reminder that this is even like life, that we've been given the opportunities to just stumble upon this shit together and individually. It's like, that's the fun. That's what I'm looking forward to the next 40 years, is like every year we have a new thing like this that's just like, man, just adds a new shade of color or something to life. And then, yeah, I mean, just the privilege to be able to like project that to the world and connect to some people on a podcast like this is also just so incredible. And it warms my heart to think that even one person might like hear something in this pod and it like sends them on a like an amazing trajectory. Like, dude, you and I are both like ripping podcasts all the time and YouTube videos. So I know what it likes to know what it feels like to have that trigger something in me. So
Yeah.
I pray to God that at least one person gets value.
Yes. I'm sure someone will. It always happens. I get like between 5 and 10 people watching each episode. So, hey, that's not zero.
Beautiful. No, that's great. Yeah. That's great. We can, again, like the idea of relaxing into what God has planned for us, bro. You could have like 100,000 viewers and have like 2 people have something land with them in a way that like ripples out into the world. But you could have 10 listeners and have like 5 of those people be like, this was like very important to me. So you never know. Like the metrics aren't really that great of representation. God always plays tricks like that. Like he'll take what you think is going to happen and then just slap you with it. Like, bro, you're stupid. I can do anything, man. Like,
yeah,
that one of those 10 people could be like fucking president of like, I don't know, France or something. Probably not him, but yeah, not France. Maybe something a little less.
We should definitely have a follow up.
Let's not go there.
I feel like there's so many, and I just realized, like, dude, even when we hang out one-on-one, I know I'm leaving now, but like these are, like, I think we had 1 or 2 of these types of conversations, but I love this stuff. Like I love also just learning what sparks you, and what lights your heart up. And in some way I can like, I know what you're talking about. Like I can keep up with what this is, and I have my own perspectives to offer. So invitation to go there when we hang out in person too would be great.
Absolutely, bro. Yeah, and this is one of your gifts of being able to take people there and ask the right questions. So
thank you.
Keep sharpening that shit, bro. It's awesome.
Thank you, man. All right, everybody. Hope you guys you enjoyed our episode today. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time. Much love. Stay kind.
Peace.